Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we are ranking all the X-Men movies. Well, almost all of them. The reason why I decided to do this was because, one, I really wanted to talk about the X-Men movies because I saw them not so long ago, and I kind of wanted to talk about them. But also because at the time this video should be coming out, the original X-Men movie is 21 years old. Wow. Can't believe it's been 21 years since the first X-Men movie released. It's kind of unbelievable, but it is true. So we are back in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1 because that's the only LEGO Marvel game that has the X-Men in it. Sadly, hopefully we can get more eventually. More LEGO Marvel games with X-Men in it. And we're going to talk about the X-Men movies. Now, I will not be including Logan or the Deadpools just because I have not seen them yet. Once I see them, I will update this list. But as right now, those are the only ones I will not be including. But here we go. Also, I know I have some pretty unpopular opinions when it comes to these X-Men movies. So if you disagree with me, that's okay. We don't have to agree. I have unpopular opinions, so I'm okay with that. So yeah, let's get started with the ranking, I guess. Hopefully we can get Wolverine out of the water, but it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. Also, before we get started, just a quick spoiler alert. I will be diving into some minor spoilers for every X-Men movie. So, yeah, just a spoiler warning. Also, if you're wondering, I am only basing this off of the theatrical released versions of the films, not any of the director's cuts or the road cut, only the theatrical cuts. And let's continue. Let's get started. In last place, we have X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now, I feel like there were some cool things about this movie. Like, seeing Wolverine's origin story, I think is pretty cool. It was a cool idea. And also, you know, some of the action I thought was decent. And it was cool seeing Gambit for the first time. But there's a lot about this movie I was not a fan of. One, I know one of the biggest complaints about this movie is that the claws look the fakest in any of the X-Men movies, and that is true, which is weird because in the original X-Men it looked better, even though that movie's older than this movie, so that doesn't make too much sense, but whatever. And, you know, there's just so many things that was kind of about this movie, and the thing that I personally hated the most was how they did Deadpool, because when I think about what they did to Deadpool, it makes me so upset. Because what they decided to do was sew his mouth shut, even though he's the merc with the mouth, but whatever, ow, I run by a car. And they gave him powers that didn't even relate to what he had, except for the regenerating abilities. So that, because they decided, hey, let's make his swords like Wolverine's claws. Why? They also gave him laser eyes and like teleportation like Nightcrawler. And I don't know why they did that. I was not a fan of that. I thought that was lame, which was kind of a shame because most of the movie like parts of the story I thought were pretty decent. And I personally love that scene where Wolverine has his claws out, running through the cages, cutting the locks out of all the cages, freeing all these young mutants. That was awesome. At least I thought so. But so many stuff I was not a fan of in this movie. Also, I feel like they had a lame excuse for why he didn't have his memories in the X-Men movies. I feel like they could have done something way cooler. He was shot in the head with the adamantium, I think it was adamantium bullet, which made him lose his memory, which that kind of feels like a lame excuse to bring that out. I feel like they could have done a way better job with that, but whatever. But moving on to number 9, we have X-Men Apocalypse. This was a movie that I know some people said that just by the trailers they thought it didn't look good. For me personally, when I saw the trailers for this movie, I thought, okay, this is going to be a good movie. This is going to be a good X-Men movie. And then I saw it, and I was very disappointed. Again, I don't think it was absolutely terrible, but it definitely wasn't my favorite at all. First of all, Apocalypse should have been done much better. Like, I feel like Apocalypse was really lame, and he shouldn't have been, because Apocalypse is a cool villain. But that's the way they did him. Because I felt like a lot of stuff did good with it. Like, I feel like, you know, the way they brought in, like, Cyclops and Jean Grey, that was awesome. What they did with Magneto was awesome. Well, you know, the first half of the movie. He didn't do much in the second half of the movie. And, again, they gave my favorite character in the movie, that being Peter Maximoff, a.k.a. Quicksilver, a very small role in the movie. Well, I guess technically it wasn't very small in this one, but it was way smaller than it should have been in my opinion. But his scenes, in my opinion, were the best scenes in this movie. But I don't know. I was just kind of disappointed by this movie. But there were definitely parts I really liked about it. I didn't hate the movie, and it's one I rewatch, and I have no problems with rewatching it. It's just disappointing because I was expecting way more than I ended up getting. At number 8, we have The Wolverine. Another movie that personally I thought was pretty good until the finale. First of all, though, the action sequences in this movie were amazing. I thought the action in this movie was awesome. Like, my favorite part about this movie was definitely the action scenes in the first half of the movie. Not counting the finale, we'll get to that later. But I don't really know what else to say. The story was pretty good, I thought. It wasn't a bad story. I personally thought it was weird, though, I thought it was weird that he fell in love with someone else when he was still getting over the loss of Jean Grey. That felt really weird to me. I don't know why they did that. But whatever. But the rest of it I thought was really cool.
I just saw someone.
The thing I did not like about this movie, the only thing that made me like, was the finale. Silver Samurai and Viper were not my favorite villains. They're definitely my least favorite when it comes to this franchise. And I'm sorry, maybe I'm just weird, but even though I have this movie above X-Men Apocalypse, I personally think these two villains are worse than Apocalypse based on the movies. You might disagree with me, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, and I don't know, the action just didn't feel as good in the finale, but oh wow. The rest of the movie I thought was really good. Moving on to number 7, we have X-Men: The Last Stand. Now, this is a movie I know a lot of people hate. I don't hate it, actually. It's definitely not as good as the X-Men movies higher up on this list. At least I don't think so. But I enjoyed a lot of the movie. The only thing I feel like they should have done better, they should have taken out the Phoenix plotline. I think they should have saved that for its own movie right off the bat instead of waiting how many years to do it. Because like the other two plot points that they had was X-Men, Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and The Cure. I thought those two plot lines were great. I thought that was awesome. The only thing, like literally the only thing I didn't like about this movie personally was how they kind of shoved Phoenix into this.
I just saw someone who looked exactly like him.
And I feel like if they kept those, just the two plot lines, it would have been a good movie. And then they should have made a fourth film, that being X-Men: The Phoenix, or Rise of the Phoenix, or whatever they wanted to call it. Instead of forcing it into this movie.
Not cool.
But also, like,
Shit, buddy.
I'm so glad they undid most of this movie, just because if this movie was not undone, even though I did enjoy it, I feel like some of the death in it wasn't very good. Like, the fact that they killed Professor X, as terrible as that was, I think they did play it off decently. Same thing with Jean's death. I don't think it was terrible, especially because I think that was an interesting idea, having Wolverine be the one, having to be the one to kill her, you know, he was the one who wanted to the least. But I did not like the way they killed Cyclops, because like they didn't do anything about it. Like, Cyclops is this character, not only is he a great character, like a great X-Men, but he's also a popular X-Men character and a character that was beloved by the other characters in this movie. And they're just like, oh, by the way, Cyclops is dead. Oh, that kind of sucks. Well, let's move on. That's what they did with Cyclops' death, and I was not a fan of that, personally. But besides that, I enjoyed pretty much the rest of the movie, and I know a lot of people hate this movie, and I can understand why. I just don't hate it, except for a couple of things. Like, I don't think they should have forced the Phoenix plotline. But besides that, I enjoyed it. But moving on to number 6, we have Dark Phoenix. Now, when I heard they were making a Dark Phoenix movie, I thought, yes, this is what they should have done in the first place. They shouldn't have shoved it in. Like I said before, they should have shoved it in. They should have made it its own movie. And they're finally doing that. Was it as good as I was expecting? I don't really know, because I wasn't expecting it to be the best thing ever. But it was definitely not terrible in my opinion. Now, except for the villain. The villain, in my opinion, was lame. Hey! I understand that, because I heard some of the behind-the-scenes drama was they wanted to use scrolls, but because of Captain Marvel, they weren't allowed to. So they changed it for these generic shape-shifting aliens, which were lame. I don't even remember much of the villain. Like, all I know is that was an alien that could shapeshift. That's all I remember about the villain. I don't even remember the main villain's name. And this villain might even be worse than Viper and Silver Samurai, because at least I can remember their names on, like, this alien who I don't remember their name of. But besides that, I thought it did a pretty interesting things. I enjoyed it for the most part. The trailers definitely made it look better than it was, like, because the trailers showed, like Professor X and Beast are arguing. They're like, the whole team is gonna be divided. Like, should they kill Jean? Should they try to save her? Is she a lost cause? Can she be redeemed? Like, that's a good conflict to put into this movie, and it was barely there. And of course, the thing I hated the most about this movie was the fact that Peter Maximoff, aka Quicksilver, had very little screen time. Oh, he was injured. Why did you injure him so fast? I wanted more of him. He probably could have saved the movie. Again, I know a lot of people hate this movie. I don't hate it. I'm okay with rewatching it. So.
Is it a bird?
But I know a lot of people hate it. But I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent. Definitely not the best, not the worst either. And now, bring us into the top 5 is The New Mutants. Now, this is a movie that I was not expecting to be in the top 5. I was expecting it to be at least the bottom 3, and I'll tell you why. 1, long-delayed movies don't have a good record of being good. And 2, I am not a horror fan. I don't watch horror movies because I don't like horror movies. I'm not a fan of those. I stick to superheroes. That's the movies I watch, superheroes and action. So when I found out that this movie was gonna be horror, I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to enjoy this movie. But I actually really enjoyed it. I think part of the reason is it wasn't big into horror. I mean, it's considered horror, and I probably would consider it horror, but it didn't have much of horror. And I feel like one problem with the movie is that even though it was kind of sold as this horror superhero movie, it wasn't either of those two. For the most part, it felt like more of a coming-of-age film than a superhero or a horror movie. But I was okay with that. I really enjoyed it, and I think the big reason for that is because I loved the characters. They were awesome, and the cast was amazing. I feel like the cast was probably perfectly casted in this movie. Like, I hear people saying that this is like the worst of the X-Men movies. I don't know how you can say this is worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine or X-Men Apocalypse. Like, how is this movie worse than those two? This movie was, I really enjoyed it. And I thought the story was really good. Like, it was a pretty good story. And I was surprised. And personally, I feel like the way they ended it was definitely like an open-ended type of ending where it's like, it could have a sequel, but it doesn't necessarily need one. And personally, I kind of want a sequel for this movie. So, hashtag release New Mutants 2. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's owned by Disney now. That ain't happening. But it is really a shame that this movie was going to be a trilogy, and now it's not going to be. That kind of sucks. And even if they do make a sequel to this movie, they're going to have to change up their plans, because if they get the original cast, they're way older than they were when they shot this movie back in what? I think it was shot in, like, what, 2016, 17? Because it was, the first release date was in 2018, and it released in 2020. So, I feel like it kind of sucks that this movie was kind of just dumped also, like, in theaters when nobody was going to the theaters either. I feel like Disney just wanted to get rid of this movie, be like, okay, let's just try to keep it under the radar, let's just try to get rid of it as best we can. And I don't understand why. I thought it was really good. And if you haven't seen it, I think you should check it out. Because I really enjoyed it. And I don't really have too much bad to say about it, except for the horror part probably was my least favorite part. But even then, that wasn't too bad. The only other problem I have with it, I don't really know. Some of the drama felt forced, but not all of it. So I don't really know what else to say about it, except for I enjoyed it, and it made it in the top 5, which surprised me. But moving on to number 4, we have X2, X-Men United. This was a great X-Men movie and a great sequel to the first X-Men movie. Like, the action was good, it was a good story, and it definitely took what the plot was in the first X-Men and expanded it, and it just did a great job at that, and it introduced new characters like Nightcrawler, and I thought it was really good. And I just really enjoyed it, and it's one I rewatch more than some of the other ones on this list, because it was really good. And now, bringing us into the top 3, we have X-Men Days of Future Past. And this is one I know a lot of people love, and I understand why, because it is a great X-Men movie. And I loved it. Not only was it a great X-Men movie, but it was also a great time travel movie. And I really enjoyed it. Now, at this point in time, I have not seen the Rogue cut yet. I'm trying to. I really want to see that.
All right, I suppose.
But I want to see it, so hopefully I can see it eventually. But even this theatrical cut was really good. And I really enjoyed the story, the action. Even though the cliffhanger with Mystique getting Wolverine went absolutely nowhere, the rest of the film was really good.
That guy doesn't look too good.
And I feel like if they wanted to, this could have been the last movie in the franchise. Be like, oh, we had all these X-Men movies. We had the 3 X-Men movies. The third one didn't do so well. And we're pretty much ignoring X-Men Origins Wolverine. But we had those films, and then we completely redo some of the stuff that we did, including the ones that nobody liked with this movie, and now we're done. They could have done that. They didn't, which it's okay. I didn't hate all the movies moving forward like some people did, but I thought it was a really good movie. And it almost was it was almost higher up on this list, but I decided after rewatching it that I kind of like these up to a little bit more. But before I reveal that, if you could please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when I post or go live. That'd be awesome. Thanks for doing that. Now, to move on to number 2, we have X-Men. That's right, the original X-Men that came out in the 2000s. This movie was awesome. I think part of the reason why I like it more than the rest is just because it is the first X-Men movie. Because without this movie, we wouldn't have X2 or Dark Phoenix or New Mutants. Now, I know some people, I know some people would disagree with that, like, they're like, oh, we didn't need Dark Phoenix, and I would agree that this is the reason why we have X-Men Origins Wolverine and Apocalypse, but still, I'm very glad that we have a lot of these movies, and this is the big reason for it, because this movie did well. Plus, this is one of the movies that helped comic book movies get a better reputation, and they really helped boost comic book movies. But besides that, the story was great, the acting was great, Hugh Jackman was perfectly casted as Wolverine, and Patrick Stewart was like perfect for Professor X, and even the rest of the cast, the actress who plays Rogue and Storm and Cyclops, like, they're all perfectly casted. And this movie was a big reason for that. And the story and the action was great, especially for a movie that came out in the year 2000.
Hi there.
It's pretty decent. There are some parts that, even to this day, are kind of iffy, but for the most part, even in the century we're in now, it still doesn't look too bad. But there was an X-Men movie I enjoyed a little bit more than this one. Sorry if you heard my dog. Because at number 1, we have X-Men First Class. I loved this movie, and I thought it was a great X-Men film. Even though it was a prequel, like, because when I saw, oh, they don't have Wolverine, they don't have Rogue, they don't have Storm, they don't have Cyclops, they don't even have Jean Grey. Oh, I'm probably not gonna enjoy this movie. All my favorite X-Men aren't here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna enjoy this movie, and I loved it. Which was a surprise, because the only X-Men characters that I actually knew at the time were Professor X and Magneto and Mystique. But I ended up loving this movie and liking it a bit more than the rest. I thought it was really well done. The story was pretty great, and I feel like this movie could have stood just as a prequel without Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and the others, just because I feel like the ending really does help set up the first X-Men movie.
Gee whiz.
But, you know, they decided to do other stuff with it and create a bunch of sequels, but whatever. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really well written. I thought the action was awesome, and the characters were great. Even though I don't really remember much of the villain's name, I'm trying to remember what it was. He was still a pretty good villain, even though I don't remember his name. He was still better than most of these other villains in the X-Men films, and I really enjoyed this movie. And I thought the origin stories for Magneto, Raven, and Professor X were awesome and done really well. And like Magneto's was emotional. So, and I just really enjoyed this, and that's why it's my favorite X-Men movie. Who knows? This list could change later on. Maybe I'll rewatch all of them and I'll be like, huh, actually, I like this one a little less, or I like this one a little more. That could happen. But as right now, this is my ranking. And what is your ranking? Let me know down in the comment section below, but feel free to use all the X-Men movies you've seen, and you can use the theatrical or the director's cuts. I just want to know what you guys thought. Which one's your favorite? Which one's your least favorite? Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? What do you disagree with me on? What do you agree with me on? I want to know. And if you like this video, please hit like. If you want to see more of me talking about Marvel and even DC, as well as like playing games based on Marvel and DC, please go hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I post and go live. So, and maybe I'll make more videos based off the X-Men movies. I don't know. That franchise kind of stopped for now, but I could always go back and revisit them because they're, for the most part, they're pretty good movies. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for wow, you're acrobatic, Mysterio. Or Mysterio, yeah, Magneto. Thanks for watching. Bye.